Call the roll and record those members present.
Alexander.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan.
Here.
Chatnoff.
Here.
Graney.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Leahy. LeBron Martinez. Lisi.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Soto.
Present.
Tommen.
Here.
Vacon. Here. Valentin.
Here.
All rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
God bless America.
And the City of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
First item on the agenda this evening is we do have one item laid on the table currently. If there's no motions to remove it from the table, it will remain on the table. Hearing no motions, we move on to public comment. We had 3 concerned citizens that signed up for public comment for this evening. The first is Terry Laramie of 15 Gordon Drive. Terry? Just make sure the microphone's on, Terry. Oh, it's not on.
It's a
little button
it's a switch on top. There you go.
Now,
Perfect. Thank you.
this is regarding the zone change on Whiting Farms Road. Let me start by giving you a timeline of the last 3+ years our neighborhood has had to go through since Lowe's was first interested in the property. It seems a certain counselor was able to visit a very elderly woman and get her to take her name off of our petition. What makes it worse is that he was able to get that form documented even after the clerk's office had closed for business at its regular time. Then Walmart came along with plans and good smoozing with city officials. Thank God we had a few really good organized groups of people that were able to make a lot of noise. Now, if that isn't enough, a city planner seems shocked that we were able to get a business owner to sign our petition. Seems he had already heard that that owner was on Gary's side. When is conflict of interest going to be taken seriously? Do we not want representatives who can think on their own and form their own opinions? Or does everyone, no matter how wrong their thinking is, have to agree with the mayor because he signs their paychecks? And lastly, how can the planning board and economic development be under the same department? You are in direct conflict with one another. How would you as a resident feel when your city government is only interested in a fast buck and not at all at my quality of life? And this is for you, Linda. Where did you come up with the figure of 80% okay with Gary Rome?
We don't use names of counselors. Just
Okay,
so you know.
sorry.
Thank you.
Strike that. Did you not stop foot in the area directly affected by this zone change? We do have the petition and we do have a lot more than 20%. I did probably 5 times now, and most of your constituents directly across the street have said that more than once. And at the reading of the zone change, the business to business highway, the reasons that you mentioned did not sit well. When did the site plans look good? I never knew that the meeting in the City Hall auditorium was indeed a meeting to finalize his plans. Therefore, the result zoning to fit a business rather than the existing neighborhood. That's it.
Thank you. Next speaker is Gail Keith of 6 Farnham Drive. Gail?
Hi. I'd like to start by saying that this property at Whiting Farms Road, as we all know, has been through many changes. This land was previously zoned IP, it went to BG, and now going to BH, it seems. BG was inappropriate, which makes BH even more inappropriate. This is something that we had discussed many times in our Planning and Ordinance Committee meetings before Mr. Rome was even a blip on the radar, and we all agreed that we were trying to do something decent with what we were doing there. And then he came along, we were just kind of pushed aside. This parcel abuts residential neighborhoods. This is an inappropriate and inharmonious use. It provides no transition between potentially intense commercial use and residential neighborhoods. It's not a good place for an auto dealership. We don't want to look out our windows and see 18+ acres of asphalt, shiny cars, heat, LED lights, and Mr. Rome walking his dog. We have gotten the names on a petition to deny his zone change, even though it was evident that it would not really do us any good. But I wanted to prove that, contrary to what you may have been hearing, most of the people in this neighborhood are not in favor of Mr. Rome's auto dealership. We got the 20% number. We got more than the 20% number. We also have a petition which I handed to Mr. Jourdain, which shows a good number of the people in the area. 21 just on Farnham Drive alone signing that petition, and that petition was put together within 1 or 2 days. It was not like anybody marched around the city looking for those names. Those names were readily available just for the asking. I'd like to give my 2 cents about the term business friendly, because I've been hearing it a lot lately. If a business is going to come into an area, into a neighborhood, or any city, any self-respecting city, and it wants to change zoning so as to disrupt the entire city, disrupt the neighborhood, potentially ruining the neighborhood, that business better be ready to be put through the hoops. And that city better be ready to put that business through the hoops. Because if they want to make that change, they want to disrupt people's lives, they have to be able to argue well that that was worth it, and that it's worth doing this to people in order for their business to get what they want. So as far as I'm concerned, this whole process has not been unfair to Mr. Rome or his business. If anything, as far as I can see, the city of Holyoke tends to roll over very easily when it comes to zoning matters. I have no experience in other areas that have to do with business, and in other areas it may be awful. But as far as zoning, what I have seen is that the city rolls over pretty easily. And so I don't think that that's an appropriate term to use in this case. He's getting his own way, and he's getting it very easily. All right. I think we need to demand respect for our city. We should have standards, and those standards should be met. A business coming into our city should try to meet those standards, and we should stand up and be proud of our city and not feel like anybody who shows up that we're so glad that they came, that we want them to love us, so we give them whatever they want. Maloney. At the past ordinance meeting, the last ordinance meeting, Mr. Marrero...
Gail, about 30 seconds, so kind of wrap up, please.
He was asked about the request for proposal for this property. He stated in that, in the request for proposal, it said that the proposal person should let the G&E know if they needed a zone change. To me, that says, if you want a zone change, you got it, buddy. Okay? You're going to get it. I say, let's stop saying that we only zone for land use and that we don't zone for projects. Let's just admit it. We zone for projects. We always have, and that's the way it is. All right, so let's just say it and be honest.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dick Theroux of Brown Avenue. Richard, welcome. Good to see you again.
Is it on or off?
You're on.
I'm here to speak tonight about something I read in the Mass Live on the city calendar. I understand there's going to be an order to have the council look at the billing of the sewer rates to take away, so the taxpayers don't have to take pay any money. Let's look at what the ratepayers pay now. We pay a sewer rate. We also pay for all the water runoff rate. We also pay for all the municipal waste, starting from the city hall right down to the school departments, Department of Public Works, whatever. We pay for that. Nobody else is putting a dime in. Yet, we have 700 people, 700 homes that don't pay a dime, and they use the city street. They say, we don't use the sewer system. Maybe not directly, but indirectly they do. If you work for the city, or if you're in here, you know, and you have children in school, then you are directly, you should also share in the cost. Number 2. Now, when this was instituted by a former mayor and the Board of Public Works, I questioned at the time, was it legal? Or did he exceed his authority by saying, you're exempt? We are the only city that doesn't have a water runoff waste or sewer overflow. I don't know why, but we don't. So, question would be, can somebody check to see if this was legal or if he went above his authority? That's number 3 is that, how about the Department of Revenue? Do they know that we're not collecting money that we should really be collecting to help pay our bills? Because they're not. All we hear is that, oh, well, we're not using it, we don't want to pay anymore. Excuse me. I pay twice. I pay for the sewer and I pay for it out of my taxes. Okay? The other ratepayers that only pay out of the taxes, they're only paying once. And it's minimal. So I understand this is coming up at the budget meeting, and I just want to get my point across before it comes up so they can look into this. I feel the rates are way too high, and also, if this had been instituted at the time, I spoke to city officials, we wouldn't be here now. Figure how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that passed. I called a few cities today. Chicopee has a rate of $25 a quarter, $100 a year. Everybody, every property owner gets this rate. The sewer rate is different. Now just multiply $100 a year, which is only $2 a week, times, you know, that's $100 times 700, you're going to come up with some pretty hefty change. Meanwhile, we don't need any, I don't need any more rates increases. I'm already paying a sewer rate, I'm already paying a runoff rate, I'm already paying the rates for the municipal buildings. Somebody has to help us carry the ball here. Now, is the medical center,
About 30 seconds,
the Holyoke
Richard.
Hospital, is that exempt or they pay? How about the Soldiers' Home? We don't know who pays and who doesn't pay. But I think there's a few questions that should be asked, should be looked into, and come up with what's fair and equitable for everybody. I believe that everybody should pay their fair share, and they should also pay for the needs that are running of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. That concludes our public comment period for this evening, which now brings us to communications, which brings us to item number 2. Item number 2 is a communication from the Assistant City Solicitor. It's a legal opinion regarding Special Act charter changes, votes required, and update.
Be received.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that it be received.
Can you give an abbreviated reading of like the main point?
Sure. Main point for section 1 of the opinion is that majority vote. That was an issue at the last meeting. That was codified in this opinion, and why. Second part of the memorandum is regarding the special act that went up for changes to the position of treasurer. Basically going on to say here that the House Counsel feels that there's some confusion regarding the election of treasurer. I would say to that, I know myself, I sent a memorandum over to the of my opinion on the issue to the state representative, as well as asked them to forward that to the House Counsel. So, you know, this touches on the issue about how we're going to handle the special election, as well as the election for whether or not we should or should not have an elected treasurer. I think I'm happy to forward my take on it, and I think it clarifies it. It clarified it for Representative Vega, but I believe the House Counsel was under the impression that there was going to be a vote whether or not in November on whether or not we were going to have a special election, and whether or not we should have the special election in November as well as in the future years. And so it seemed odd to him regarding, well, people could be running on the same day that you're having a special election, and whether or not there should be a special election. But when you look at the special legislation that the law department crafted, is the special election is eliminated. The issue on the vote in November is going to be relative to having a vote in November to take effect depending on how the people vote in 2017. So that's the issue there. So I try to point that out. I think that hopefully clarifies the issue, and if we're invited to go out to the committee, I know I'll continue to work with the law department, but basically if the legislature adopts it, there won't be a need for a special election this year, that whoever the council appoints would, instead of just running to January, would run for the remaining 2.5 years. So that would be that. And then there'll be the vote in November to decide what happens in 2017. So, any other thoughts on this? Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to refresh my memory, wasn't there talk of combining the treasurer and tax collector? Where are we with that?
Right, we haven't done anything with that yet because step one of this process is to eliminate the issue of it being elected. So as you know, tax collector is an appointed office, and the theory among many is that if the public votes in the affirmative on this, then we can go to step two, which would be special legislation to merge those two jobs, and then to have that as an appointed office. And that's in the rollout of the new finance department. That would be how it would end up. Yep. Any other? Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had questioned the majority vote on the 3 votes that we took at the last meeting, and I thank Attorney Cunha for the opinion. I understand and agree with the special act home rule petition is a majority vote, and that the state legislature will recognize that and decide if they will pass the actual special act. I still question that question, but I still find it hard to believe that a charter can be changed by less than 2/3 majority vote of a body charter, especially when the question is about a form of government important to all the voters of the city. I also note that it's very clear in this opinion that by no means is this guarantee this is going to go on as ballot questions in November. The legislature and governor can pass this without having ballot questions. So I think anybody that voted in favor, endorsed this, is sending a message to the legislature that you're in favor of the changes. Whereas I heard some city councilors said although they're not in favor of the changes, they're in favor of the voters having their say on it, which I think we all agree to. But unless the legislature puts it on the ballot, there's no guarantee.
Okay. Any other discussion? Motion on the floor is that this communication be received. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 3. Item number 3 is from our city clerk. It's the minutes of the previous council meeting of May 5th.
Be received and approved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that these be received and approved. Any discussion? Councilor Lisi?
Just out of curiosity, are we merging the minutes that the clerk's providing with those that the written minutes that the administrative assistant to the city council is providing?
Ryan's indicating yes.
So we don't have to take separate votes on those 2 sets of minutes any longer?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we wouldn't be forgetting about that other set of minutes.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
You bet. You might even want to put here, just on the further communications, to give yourself editorial credit, you might want to say from both the administrative assistant and the clerk, because I know you do a lot of work on that.
Or you might not.
All right. Motion on the floor is that item number 3 be received and adopted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And we're off to item number 4. Item number 4 is a communication from Alicia Zeller, who's the administrator of the CDBG office, and she's telling us here what the final allocations were as part of the 2015 annual plan.
Be received, sent to Development and Government Relations.
Okay, motion's
Second.
been made and seconded to receive and to refer the communication over to DGNR. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
So thank you, Mr. President. Very brief. Just want to thank the committee members for a nearly 3-hour meeting. It was not in vain because the mayor basically agreed with virtually every single recommendation made by that committee, approved by City Council. And there were some significant changes made, and really to Gladys's ward, the Ward 1, Gladys had to swallow her pride a little bit on it, but she went along with the program and really should be thanked. And Josie really has some great ideas. Joe always does, and Gordon always does too. So, I mean, they get enough accolades, but really want to thank Josie and Gladys for really pitching in that night, and then the full City Council, because if you look at the allocation, but except for a few subtle changes on here, I mean, he agreed with us. I mean, and I really think the committee and the council should be thanked, and also thank you to the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Can I amend my motion to simply receive then, as opposed to receive and send to committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to just be received. Any other discussion? Councilor Bresnahan?
If I might, just a quick question.
Sure.
Dave, the code enforcement blight remediation on the for the 51,000, is that to hire someone, or is that what is that? Do you know what that money's going to be allocated for?
May I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bartley.
So yeah, Danny. These are block grant funds, and this is a grant position. This is not going to be a city employee, i.e. with benefits like retirement, that sort of thing. It's going to be a person that's going to be in the block grant wards, if you will. So parts of Ward 3, wards 1, 2, and 4, and it's going to be working under the auspices of the Board of Health.
Yep, no problem. Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor that this be received?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 5. Item number 5 comes to us from Marcos Marrero. As you know, he is the Director of the Office of Planning and Economic Development. It's regarding a $12,000 grant that was awarded to that particular department from the Massachusetts Historical Commission in funding of the City of Holyoke Preservation Plan. Attached is the award letter and a grant acceptance letter signed by the mayor for our consideration. I would recommend probably that this be sent to a committee of some form.
Probably
to
finance,
right? Okay. All right. Motion on the floor is that this would be referred to the Committee on Finance for discussion. Any other discussion now? Councilor McGivern. There's some letter here signed by the mayor, but no, it's not in proper form.
Send a copy to the auditor to get proper form, please.
Brian, would you do that for us? Yep. So motion on the floor is to receive, refer to finance with a note to the auditor to make sure we have it in the correct form for our acceptance at a future meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 6. Item number 6 comes to us also from Mr. Marrero, and it's a please see attached letter from Mass Development awarding $85,000 in funding the environmental cleanup at the former Automania. These funds will complement a $200,000 federal EPA grant. This is going to be probably a ditto situation to the last one. And
Receive, send to finance?
Yep.
Copy to the auditor.
Yep. Motion's been made and seconded to receive, refer to the Finance Committee with a copy to the auditor to ask that it be put in proper legal form. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number
Suspend the necessary rules, take up 7 through 11 as a package.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to suspend our rules to take up items 7 through 11 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 7 comes to us from Terry Shepard. It's the minutes of the Park and Rec Department Commission for February 11th. Item number 8 is the Board of Fire Commission minutes for March 9th. Item number 9 is the Board of Public Works minutes for April 13th. Item number 10 is the Sewer Commission minutes of April 13th. And item number 11 is the Stormwater Authority minutes of April 13th.
Be received.
Motion is seconded that all of the items 7 through 11, all 5 of these items be received. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 12. Item number 12 is a communication from the Chamber of Commerce. It's a thank you letter from the Fiscal Review Committee and the Holyoke Taxpayers Association, as well as themselves. Have everyone received had an opportunity to receive a copy of the letter?
No.
Yes. No. Okay. Brief overview of the letter, because it is 2 pages long, is just thanking us, liking the approach of a capital improvement plan, liking the approach of utilizing more accurate revenue and expenditure forecasts. They also endorse parking fee increases as well as a stormwater fee. They also support the development of a proposed stabilization fund policy, and they also encourage the city to continue to develop the city's financial management structure as recommended from the Mass Department of Revenue. And they appreciate my partnership, as well as the council generally, of looking at a lot of these issues together with our mayor. And they say that they would like to be whatever assistance they could be to us in the future. So that's the latest with that. Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive. Any discussion on any of those points? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, President's report. I'll try to keep this brief. I'll go with the longer one if you want. I know. I'm sorry. That disappoints. A couple of things. First is I'm consistently getting phone calls and/or little notes from constituents around town, basically saying audio is not good at the meetings, and I am working on that with the powers that be, particularly Mike Hines, and otherwise on trying to improve the customer service experience, if you will, of our constituents at home that listen to our meetings. And we have quite a large audience that do listen to these meetings. But I did suggest that we also do our part, which is please do everything you can to speak into your microphones when you're speaking, because it just makes the challenge just that much more. So if you would be kind enough to just be cognizant of the fact that people are trying to listen and really want to hear what you have to say. The next thing I just wanted to touch on was the email that I did send around to the membership, forwarding you a set of communications that I'm having with relative to the PEG Access committee changes and relative to changing some authorities over to the Holyoke Community Media Committee. This is really quite a wide-scoping change. If you recall, this is the organization that receives the Comcast franchise fees that all the residents pay on their bills every month. It totals out to some, $450,000, $500,000 a year. It's a pretty significant now since the franchise fee increase rates. Just want you to be very aware and cognizant of what's going on. I have filed an order to go to the DG&R committee to invite people to come in so counselors have an opportunity, one, to hear about all the board and structural changes and the proposed new bylaws. And so you have an opportunity to hear about that and also to give me your thoughts and feedback. I sit currently, the corporate structure is the city solicitor, the mayor, and the council president. Oversee as the board of directors, if you will, of this PEG Access Corporation. So in my seat as council president, I just want to be reflective of your wishes and your general sense as our members, and I feel it's very important to keep you informed of all of these type of things. So I have filed an order, and to some, they're probably not too pleased that I'm asking for your input, but oh well. I just feel that your input is very important to me, and I want you to have an opportunity to understand what's going on. It does involve a large sum of publicly acquired funds, and there's There's a lot of talk about hiring a new full-time executive director. There's going to be a whole new proposed board structure if adopted. There's also a proposal to have really a full-time, if you will, public access channel and network. There's pretty wide sweeping changes, and so I just feel each and every one of you should be aware of this. I also feel the public generally should be aware of that, and so certainly I feel a public session on this matter can come in, be informational, and then we can proceed from there. Okay, so I just wanted to pass that along, and I'll make sure that you do get a copy of those changes and the other memorandum that accompany that. Okay, so that's it for the President's report for this particular meeting. I think the only other thing, but I have sent it out to you already, is just to again remind you about the budget meetings that'll be coming up. We begin on June 1st at 6:30, and that's going to be the mayor and the other financial officers of the city, and there'll be a presentation there at that time, particularly focused on revenues, as well as a sense of the overall financial picture and the general direction through the expenses. That'll be held right here. I intend to call all of these meetings as special meetings of the City Council, as opposed to, committee of the whole or some sort of more nebulous mechanism we've used in the past. So just be mindful that 8 or more members is really appreciated at these meetings. I'm going to try and do my very best to make these meaningful to you and to not have too many of them. I think we could certainly achieve our budget hearings over 3 evenings. The second evening will be the 3rd, and then the 3rd will be the 8th. I do have the 10th on the calendar as a if necessary day. I'm hoping that we will not need it. Again, I remind members that if there is a particular department that you would like to have come in, please let me know so we can get them noticed and have them come in. Those who have already approached me thus far, they have already been invited. And then I do remind you that on June 24th, we will have a special meeting under the new rules, a separate independent meeting strictly on the budget. And that will be the only item for that evening, barring some other emergency item that has to come up. And that will be likely our last meeting before the summer recess. Okay, so that's going to be June 24th. I'm planning on a 7 o'clock start per our usual for that evening, per our normal schedule. So if there's no questions on any of that, okay, Councilor McGivern.
Quick question, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
The PEG Access was established as a corporation by this body with the, at the time, mayor. If there is any changes to PEG Access, I would hope it still requires a vote of this body.
That's a good question. That should be researched. That has not been looked at. I've posed about maybe 2-3 legal questions already, and I think the way they were envisioning it was simply a vote of the current board of directors. I don't know what.
We modeled it after Greenfield, the makeup, and I'm not saying it's. I'm open to changes, but I would hope that the City Council would be able to weigh in on that.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's why I filed this order. So a lot of those, especially yourself with, the historical on it, and I think you were actually one of the original incorporators, if I'm correct.
Mike Sullivan, Karen Berterney, and myself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think that, certainly your insights will be very valuable that evening. Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, Mr. President, if you could just mention, I know all of us got one in the mail about the Memorial Day services this Monday.
Yeah, you want to run that down for us?
I believe it starts at 8 o'clock at the War Memorial. It's a little bit earlier than normal, for the parade, the meeting, and
yes.
the march and everything. I think everybody got one in the mail from the War Memorial Commission.
Yep, absolutely. Please try to attend that. That's going to be a great event.
What was the time of the parade?
I believe it starts at 8 down here, and then I think the parade kicks off at 9 o'clock. Seems like it's a little bit earlier than normal.
About 2 hours earlier than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe everybody got it last week in the mail. I think everybody got a letter in the mail concerning that.
Okay. Councilor Graney will be in uniform, just like the old days, or?
Brunch at Sycamore Street.
Move on. Just being a wise guy. Okay, so that's the end of that. Reports of committees.
Motion to suspend the necessary rules to proceed out of order.
Okay.
Second.
And which item would you like to take up?
Late file E, please.
Late file E. Okay, motion has been made and seconded to suspend our rules to take up late file E now. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Late file E, let me help you with that, is a request to deny zone change. This was a petition.
No, E should be give leave to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay, well, the one marked E is the request to deny the zone change.
So then maybe it's H?
Okay. By the way, this got stuck together. I can't believe that's...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that is together. Do you have another letter? Try again.
I was just up there looking at it. I mean, I literally walked up there to check the letter that was written on it. Do you have the document in front of you anyhow?
I'm sorry, that's the leave to withdraw letter? Let's see.
D, as in dog.
All right. So, motion on the floor is to suspend our rules to take up late file D, which is a communication from a petitioner, as opposed to E. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Dear Councilor Lisi, this letter respectfully requests that the City Council provide leave to withdraw without prejudice the application for the zone change of the Whiting Farms Road parcel ID 116-00-001 that was submitted by Helen Norris to the City of Holyoke on December 12, 2014. A copy of said application for zone change is attached here too. Sincerely, Helen Norris.
And just for clarification, that is the petition that was from requesting...
BG to RM20.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. So motion that we receive this communication.
Second.
Receive, and we're going to grant. Isn't there going to be a motion to grant, though?
Well, we have the 13C on the agenda, so I thought instead of adopting the committee report that we could instead give it leave to withdraw in that
okay.
order.
So you're going to go with this, and then you're going to go to 13C. Gotcha. Okay. So motion on the floor is to receive D. That was seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'll briefly comment.
Councilor Lisi.
So I think that the neighbors in the neighborhood across from the Whiting Farms 18-acre parcel, since the Committee on Ordinance voted to deny their zone change request at a 3-to-1 vote in committee, I think that the neighborhood would just like the respect granted to them that they give the petition withdraw without prejudice. Just as a way of, instead of denying them, but recognizing their work and recognizing that they're just not going to get that RM20 zone.
And of course, withdrawn at their request.
Yes.
So we'll note that. Councilor McGivern.
President, a copy I have on my desk, there's only former Councilor Helen Norris's name in communication. Are the other names attached to the communication?
If I may, Mr. President.
Councilor Lisi.
As far as I remember on this zone change application, Helen Norris was the only person who requested the zone change. And the zone change is on the second document behind the letter requesting the order being given leave to withdraw. And it was just her name, and she was representing Holyoke First as a group.
And just to support what you just said, the actual name signatory of the petitioner is Helen F. Norris. And it says the permit will be granted to this person. So it's person specific, printed name Helen Norris, and 2090 Northampton Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. All in favor of receiving late file communication D?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
13C, please.
Okay. Suspend the rules, I assume, to go
Are
to 13C.
we under the suspension of the rules, or do we have to do that individually for each?
Well, you didn't put it in the other package, so I would just procedurally make
Sure. Motion to suspend the necessary rules.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second to suspend the rules to go to item 13C. Do
Yes.
I understand that correctly?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion of that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 13C is a committee report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred a zone change application from Helen Norris of Holyoke First from BG to RM20, map 116, block 00, parcel 001, known as Whiting Farms Road, an 18-acre parcel. Have considered the same, recommend that the zone change be denied. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Vacan, Bartley, and Shatnoff.
Motion that the committee report be received and given leave to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that the committee report be received, that the item be given, that the petition be given leave to withdraw. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second. Under discussion?
Careful.
Anyone?
So we're denying the committee report and giving the petition leave to withdraw.
Changing the committee recommendation effectively
To give
from
leave to withdraw
denied to leave to withdraw.
without prejudice.
Can we do that?
We have a request from the petitioner. That's what we just
No, I'm
accepted.
fine with the intent. I'm just questioning changing a committee report on the fly without the committee meeting. Would it be easier just to deny the committee report?
The committee majority recommendation just becomes the will of the body once it comes up to us. And now we can either deny it, we can recommend that the item be given leave to withdraw, that it be approved. You could go 180 degrees the other way if you wanted to, if that's the majority will. Councilor Bartley, under discussion.
I'm going to make a motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, is there a second to that? Motion fails for lack of a second. Okay. So item on the floor right now is that the item be given leave to withdraw. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, I have no problem giving a petitioner leave to withdraw, especially for a zone change or a special permit upon written request. And I will vote that way, as long as we're on the same page that this letter represents the petition for the zone change, which I believe has to be 10 taxpayers.
I honestly do not know that, Joe.
I just want to make sure
I'd have to look up the requirements for how many zone petitioners. Let's take a look here if I can look it up. I have not researched that. I'd have to go to section 1.3.1 of the zoning ordinances or section 5 of chapter 40A. I have not reviewed those recently. But law department, you want to?
So moved that we can just get a...
Okay.
Second.
Motion is made second to suspend the rules to allow the law department to address us on this withdrawal issue and the authority to withdraw. All in favor?
Aye.
Also moved. Carrie, you want to just touch on that?
Sure.
We have a request here from Mrs. Norris.
It's on. That's on. Well, we did go through this before in regards, I can't remember which petition it was, but it was a similar issue. Under 40A, Section 5, Councilor McGivern's correct. It's 10 registered voters or citizens that filed the petition. The petition was filed by additional signatories besides Ms. Norris. Her name was just the one that was used, and I would remind the council that the last time we did this, we required essentially a petition with at least 10 certified signatures for the original request to be withdrawn, and I don't believe that is what is in front of you. It's simply a letter from Ms. Norris. So in the interest of being consistent, I would say that based on how that prior petition was treated, that this is not a valid request to withdraw without having the 10 signatures. And we had a lengthy debate about whether it just needed 10 signatures or whether all the original people needed to sign that. And all you have in this case is one signature. So
Okay. Would it be possible, in light of that, if the council wanted to table it, in the event that some other vote were to take place this evening making a change, could this potential defect be remedied at a future meeting if they came in with the other 10?
I certainly, I mean, I think that was the case the last time. I think we went back and forth a few times on the various petitions, so that would be an option.
Okay, something for us to consider. Councilor Graney.
Yeah, Mr. President, just correct me if I'm wrong. The recommendation of the Committee on Ordinance is that the zone change be denied. Why can't we move on that, just deny the zone change at this point and deal with the rest of the stuff later?
You could. That was what Mr. Bartley's opinion was. Others have a different view.
Mr. Bartley made a motion, Mr. President. Mr. Bartley didn't make an opinion there. So I just want to correct the chair. Mr. Bartley made a motion. Didn't get seconded.
He made a motion that the committee report be adopted,
That's right.
which was that it be denied.
Mr. President.
Apparently that does not reflect his opinion, but he made the motion anyways. Councilor Alexander.
Thank you. We all do that. We make motions in order to get something into discussion. Can you clarify the difference between leave to withdraw without prejudice and denial?
Sure.
For the benefit
well,
of the
I
council?
think the biggest one would be the legal issue of when it's denied, you're foreclosed for a period of 2 years.
Leave to withdraw without prejudice?
Means just that, without prejudice.
So it can be refiled immediately.
Correct.
Should the applicants choose to refile.
Correct. Yep. Councilor Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to renew my motion, if I could, please, to receive the committee report, receive the committee report and adopt the receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay. All right. There was a second to that. Continuing with discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated, historically, we've always honored leave to withdraw petitions from the appropriate leave to withdraw petitioners. And I think our city solicitors pointed out that the 10 taxpayers petitioners were probably not aware of that each of them had to sign off. I have a lot of respect for how they participated in this process, although I won't be voting the way I think they would like me to vote this evening. But at the same time, I think we should give them a couple weeks to be able to come forward as a body. Therefore, I make a motion to lay item 13C on the table for our next meeting.
Okay. Motion to lay item number 13C on the table is now before the body. That, as we know, not debatable.
Well,
all in favor?
Point of order?
Yes, point of order.
Because we have a motion. I renewed my motion.
Yes.
So he's laying another motion on top of that. I thought that was out of order.
No, you can make
So
motion to table is always in order.
Thank you.
Yeah, means the body wants to go on to something else. Okay, I'm going to have a quick show of hands. If you're in favor of tabling item number 13C, please raise your hand.
I'm not clear.
And then I get to vote too. Don't forget Irma.
Still only counts as one though, Kev.
6? Is that right? Just show it. How many had their hands up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you got it. Okay, 6. That motion fails.
On the motion, Mr. President.
And so now we're back on to Councilor Bartley's, continuing discussion of Councilor Bartley's motion, which was that the committee report be adopted, which was that it be denied. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I do want to apologize for making the comments that I believe that Helen Norris was the sole petitioner, and I do remember now that we do require 10 taxpayers to file the petition to make it valid. So this letter requesting given leave to withdraw would be invalid. But I do want to stress the fact that as the public speakers stated when they came up to the mic earlier, the neighbors across from this parcel have been involved and in city council chambers for the past 3 years on several issues, and they've been very active participants, and this is really what we want to see from constituents across the board in the city. So I don't think we want to discourage or turn our noses up at that effort, which is why I believe, historically, as Councilor McGivern had noted, we do honor the request of the petitioners to give leave to withdraw when they do request it. And under that framework, I would like us to consider again laying this on the table. I understand that there's a vote before us, which we'll have to take first, but I really would like us to reconsider laying this on the table out of respect for the active and thoughtful participation of the neighbors in that district.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too respect the participation of the residents in the neighborhood and the ward and the city. And I have held forums. I have been in the neighborhood. I've received calls and letters, and I have followed up on statements that have been made publicly and opened forums for people to attend if they wish relative to this matter. And while I will note that there is this objection filed and this request to withdraw, this is the same group of people who withdrew on the IP zone change. So they have had the benefit of advice as to how to make these changes. And I have a high degree of respect for people who wish to petition against something. I have an equal amount of respect for the residents who favor something. And so I think everybody's had the opportunity of a public forum, public debate, opportunity to be heard, and full opportunity to have the proper procedures followed. So I don't think anybody's been gypped in the process, and I have personally been out in the ward on this issue and had people from all different parts of the ward at a meeting, if not once, twice, on the matter. So I would just put that in the record. And I would also note that when I made the comment relative to percentages of people supporting the other project for the zone change that's before us with the recommendation to approve, my feedback was based on people who gave me feedback. I have never indicated that I polled every resident of Ward 5. Thank you.
On the motion.
Councilor Greeny.
Yes, just quickly. This letter is dated May 16th. If this council votes to support Councilor Bartley's motion,
Opinion.
we can always revisit this letter to withdraw at a later date when the 10 signatures are in. And certainly it's no disrespect to those 10 people.
No, you couldn't.
Why not?
It's denied, and just as
That's
I
the end
stated
of the
earlier,
story.
that's it. It's denied for a period of 2 years. Leave to withdraw and denial mean two totally different things in this context. Councilor Bartley.
And so let me just give you my opinion. Thank you, Mr. President. I know you get my sense of humor. I appreciate it.
Always do. Always
so, yeah, this whole issue about if we vote to deny, that equates to a lack of respect. Wow, that's a new one now. That's a brand new argument. Now, let me reflect back to that ordinance meeting where my good friend voted in the minority, a 3-1 vote. We voted against the RM20 zone. My good friend voted no to that. My good friend also voted with the majority for the zone change for Gary Rome. Now, I respect that opinion. I don't really think it makes a lot of sense, but I respect it. And I respect these petitioners coming in here. I returned every call, every email, had a monthly ward meeting, documented, open to the public, Ward 3, anybody else. I hope that shows a sign of respect, and I hope that welcomes opinion. I'm sorry. I'm going to vote against this. Now, I don't know what the rest of the body's going to do. I haven't polled anyone in this room. I don't know what anyone's thinking. It may pass. It may win. I don't know. But when you apply for this, do you not know that it could be denied? And now at the last minute, and I mean the last minute, leave to withdraw? I mean, you went through the process, and this is also from a 9-term city councilor who knows this process, former city councilor, knows this process very well. I'm not questioning somebody's motives, but I want to be clear that I give them kudos for doing this. I respect it. I just don't agree with it. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Councilor Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is sort of an unusual case, and I'm going to ask about a point of order in a second regarding it. But to me, this is a question of, do we want to preserve an option for the petitioners in that neighborhood? We've got this vote that's in front of us, which we're going to do something with in a few minutes. Then we're going to have a vote on the Gary Rome project, or on the zone change that would underlie the Gary Rome project. That's either going to get passed, or it's going to get denied. One way or the other, you know, if it passes, then maybe we get a new Gary Rome dealership up there, maybe we don't. If for some reason we don't, if something goes south, Gary Rome's plans change and all of a sudden that parcel is then sitting there. If we've denied this zone change, this can't be brought back in for a possible alternative if for some reason the Gary Rome plans don't materialize. And it's not like we've never seen plans not materialize there. So to me, the appropriate thing to do here would be to table this petition so that, or I guess table the request. The request, too many negatives in there, so that the option still exists for the residents of that part of town to reapply for the zone change to RM20 should the other zone change that's being proposed here, A, get passed, and then B, not ever move forward as a project. We'd preserve the right to revert it under the original petition. So I think that's important. Personally, I'm going to vote in favor of the zone change to BH anyway. But in spite of that, I'd still like to see this one withdrawn without prejudice so that it can be reintroduced if conditions change sometime in the next 2 years and it's appropriate again. Thank you. Okay. Oh, and yes, the point of order that I just want to clarify for myself. If we vote on the ordinance committee recommendation, which is that the zone change be denied, and we vote against that recommendation, did we just approve the zone change?
It will be a final vote, and therefore how I have handled those in the past is if theoretically only
voting
six,
on this,
if only say 5 people voted to deny, then that means that you are voting to adopt.
So we are either, if we vote on 13C, we have no choice but to either approve or deny the zone change.
Yeah, the recommendation is denial, and so the inverse is that it be approved.
So there is no neutral ground in a vote on 13C.
No.
The neutral ground is that we table.
No, we have. That's the way we've done it with financial transfers.
Being clear.
That's you're either voting yes to approve it or no to deny it. It's one of the two. Unless somebody makes a motion to do something other than those two, that's what the final vote will be.
Then I renew
yes
the motion
or
to table.
No.
Second.
Yep. Okay. Motion on the floor is to table. I'm going to say that at this time, you have to make a motion to reconsider our vote to table.
Motion to reconsider the vote to table.
Point of order.
Mr.
Yes.
President.
The motion to table can be made at any time. It doesn't have to be reconsidered if it doesn't pass the first time.
I think on the same item, and of course.
Motion to either table or reconsider our previous motion to table, whichever is appropriate.
Yeah, I think it's on page 2 there.
Just a minute.
Things get voted on. It's, I don't know why do we even vote?
I'm going to have to, well.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, you make
the vote on this same item, on this same motion has already occurred on tabling. That is actually a de facto motion to reconsider because we just voted on the same item, which was to table the first reading of item 13C. You cannot have 2 of the same votes on the same matter under consideration. So therefore, that is a motion to reconsider. You would have to make a motion to reconsider.
So moved.
Okay. All right. So motion is to reconsider our vote on tabling. Okay. Therefore, if we approve that motion to reconsider, then the item will be tabled. Okay. All right. Any questions on that?
No question. Is there a discussion?
No, because it's on a motion that's not debatable. Therefore, the reconsideration of that motion also remains undebatable. If the underlying motion's debatable, then it would be a yes. You would be able to debate, but in this case, you cannot because the motion to table itself is not debatable. Therefore, raise your hand if you would like to reconsider our action in tabling, and so raise your hand if you're in favor of reconsidering and thus tabling the item. Nine. By your vote, you have approved. Item number 13C is tabled.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Proceeding out of order to item number late file H.
Late file H.
Or it might be E. I'm sorry.
What's the topic?
Late filed orders on the agenda. Where's the public access to this information?
It's the public's filing of items.
But not every public person got to see it, Counselor, did they?
All right, hold on.
Did they?
Let's have a motion.
They're not late filed by humans in this room.
Not an I don't consider it an emergency.
We don't have a motion on the floor, therefore you're debating without the ability to debate. So, there was a motion made to suspend the rules.
Second.
To go to late file E, which is a request to deny a zone change. Is that what you wanted to bring up?
Yes, please.
So we have our letters are correct. Is there a second to the motion to suspend the rules to take up late file E now?
Second.
Second.
Mr. President?
Any discussion on that? Yes, Councilor Alexander.
I'm sorry. Is there also a late file that's a letter from a Valerie O'Connor? We should probably take that up at the same time. It's on our desk. I'm
There's
assuming
probably
you've got a
hundreds of
copy
late files.
They're related. They should
Why
be taken up
even
as
put
a
it on the
package.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Can I just make a point of clarification that there's no counselor in this room that has filed any of these late files that we've dealt with yet, and that the public has a right to get these items onto the agenda because they haven't been filed before the meeting, close of business of the meeting that we're having now?
Thank you.
Okay. You see a letter there? It's attached to E. Oh, okay, very good. The letter from Valerie O'Connor was attached to E as part of a bigger
so long as
package.
it's being considered.
Sure, and I will point that out. So, the motion on the floor at this time, if there's no further discussion, is on suspending the rules to go to late file E. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Late file E, request to deny zone change dated March 19th, 2015. It's regarding the Gary Rome zone change on Whiting Farms Road.
Mr. President?
There
I
is,
think that's a typo.
May 19th?
Because it's been received on May 19th. That's what the stamp says.
received, all right, it's dated March 19th. But the stamp says May 19th. So you can see whoever typed it says March 19th.
Well,
just reading what I have in front of me.
So my question
has
here,
anyone had, is it necessary that I read through all of this?
Yeah,
I
read
believe
it, please.
Probably, because this is going to be the impetus, correct, Law Department, for the 12 vote issue? Okay.
but I think that it's really just the, I'm sorry, may I speak?
Yeah, Council Lisi.
I think really it doesn't matter what their reasons are. If they hit the 20% threshold, I'd like to know if we are obligated to accept this, or and does that trigger the supermajority vote, or is it still up to us whether or not we want to accept this or not?
You have no choice. I mean, they file it. The statute allows them anytime before the council takes final action to file the protest petition.
Yep.
And I will get into all the juicy details of the 20% and how much they got, and that was all weighed this afternoon.
Mr. President, for the record, can you just state what the petition is briefly for the
Yeah, there's
TV land?
they actually, as I'm going through it, they do kind of keep it to one page. Then it just goes to many, many signature pages. So I'll just go through the highlight. There are reasons why this zone change is denied, and they, as abutters, feel they want this denied. The property along Whiting Farms Road abuts a large single-family residential neighborhood and multi-unit residential complexes. The land was previously zoned IP. Several years ago, the zoning was changed to BG. This change was done against the protests of area residents to accommodate a proposed project that eventually failed. Because this parcel abuts residential neighborhoods, its zoning as BG is incompatible and an inharmonious use. Changing to BH would create zoning that is even further out of harmony to the existing neighborhood. The location provides no transportation between potentially intense commercial uses and surrounding residential uses. There are no buffering properties in between the residential and commercial land uses. This is not an appropriate location for an auto dealership. In a survey by the City Planning Department in the summer of 2014, area residents expressed a clear preference as to where they would like to see on the property. Air, water quality were of high concern. The view, as well as the view from surrounding properties. Traffic concerns and open space are scored highly. The study required a significant outlay of both time and money and should not be ignored. An auto dealership, or indeed any of the uses allowed under BH, would not only lower the value of homes, but also provide a negative effect on the enjoyment of our yards. It's signed by a series of individuals, and it should be noted that the planning department, I believe through Jeff Burkott, if I'm correct, Jeff usually is kind enough to go through the exercise to determine if the individuals qualify as abutters within the legal parameters. He did that analysis based on the people who signed this petition, and based upon that, the legal standard being 20% or greater, he determined that it was 27% of the abutters met, and therefore the threshold was met to therefore invoke the 3/4 majority vote as opposed to the normal 2/3 majority vote. So moving it from 10 to 12 votes. And so the vote, presumably, if we ultimately have this vote shortly, that will require 12 votes of the body. There is a attached letter dated May 19th, which was alluded to by Councilor Alexander. It's from a woman by the name of Valerie O'Connor. She requests to have her signature from this petition rescinded, and that's Valerie O'Connor. Also attached to this petition is a communication from the attorney for the Holyoke Gas and Electric by Jack Ferreter, stating why he opposes the efforts to oppose this zone change, and therefore basically effectively saying that they support the zone change. So that is late file E that is now before us.
Be received.
Okay. Motion is that late file E be received. Is there a second to that?
Second, and then under discussion.
Second. Under discussion, Councilor Alexander.
Thank you. Mrs. O'Connor is one of the checked off signatures, which I assume are the ones that Jeff is using to certify 27%, I believe?
Correct.
So are we still above 20% without Mrs. O'Connor's signature being considered as part of the package? Do we have an answer to that? Is there a way to get that answer?
Suspend the necessary rules and allow legal to approach.
We're still at 27. Second on the motion to suspend.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules to allow the law department to address the issue of Ms. O'Connor's rescinding, and had this already been factored in the 27% number. Kara, would you address that?
Sure. The letter from Ms. O'Connor was received this afternoon before Jeff had finished calculating everything, so that was taken into account and didn't. The 27
is without her.
Is without her.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor LeBron Martinez.
So removing that person's name will not get us, we're not at the threshold, or we are?
Removing her name was already factored into the 27% number, so they're still above the legal threshold of 20. Councilor McGivern, was your hand up?
Yes, Mr. President, the letter you noted from Attorney Ferreter, I believe that's an opposition of the RM20.
Okay, maybe it just got attached to the wrong thing in the paperwork here.
Mr. President.
Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, my thoughts is that we just had a late filed order for a zone change that we had to table because it wasn't filled out correctly, mind you, by a former city councilor. Now we have a wrongly dated request to deny a zone change that we've taken out of a late file again, where I know, Mr. President, the rest of my colleagues can see this, that we have 2 people deceased. Their names are on the sheet, but they're deceased. There's a 3rd person deceased, and God rest their souls, hopefully they didn't pass away during this process. But, you know, I question the authenticity of a document that, if it's so crucial, they got the wrong date on it. We have folks that are not with us any longer, and then we have a petition to, we tabled a petition from a former councilor that didn't have the signatures that was required. They're both late filed orders, which again, I'll be filing an order on who should be able to file late file orders during a city council meeting, because I don't think that's appropriate. But again, when we talk about business friendly, there's been meetings upon meetings upon meetings with Mr. Rome, who's been good enough to come in and sit through every meeting that he's been required to sit through, the planning board. We've got the recommendations. We have a recommendation to approve on the agenda that the public had 48 hours notice to read, and that was posted. We have a recommendation that the zone change be adopted. Now there's something different. And we have another, on 13C, a recommendation that the zone change be denied. So hashing things out in committee apparently doesn't hold any water, because we can just change it at the last minute. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. We're drawing out a process that has been drawn out for a very long time. Let's move on. Let's get the rest of these orders. Let's do what the ordinance committee recommended to this body. Let's make a move on item 13A, item 13B, and item 13C. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I just want to clarify the issue of the deceased person part. Just so I want to make sure that we're clear as to what you're reading, because I do see what you're saying is it has the two owners of record for 8 Autumn Street. Gelia Schulman and an Arcady Schulman. I think what you're seeing there is they're putting the name of the owners of record on the left column, and then they're doing the signatures on the right. And what they're trying to, I think, signify there is that there's a check for Gelia Schulman, who did sign. The reason there is no signature for Arcady Schulman, the other record owner, now of course we don't know to the deed, like is it, you know, tenancy by the entirety, or all these, maybe these people, the decedent no longer owns the property. But nevertheless, they're stating here that that this Mr. or Mrs. Schulman, I apologize, I don't know the Arcady name, if that's a man or a woman name. But nevertheless, that is just signifying that they're now deceased, and therefore there's no signature as an owner of record. Just so we're clear, there's no now. If there was a signature from Arcady Schulman here, that would be another story.
Mr. President, on that point, well, if you look on page 2, there is a gentleman from 61 Lynch Drive, and I don't know. You know, the middle initial is a little off. I don't know if it's a junior, but it appears that a Robert did sign it, and there seems to be a Robert that is deceased. Third from the bottom. I apologize. So I don't know.
I think what they're saying here is there's 3 record owners, a Robert A. LaRock, a Robert C. LaRock. At least that appears. Okay. At least that appears to be to me.
And then underneath it says A.
A Robert A. and a Mary. I'm just going to go out on a limb here.
Oh, that's fine.
Signature by the living one, yes.
Happen to know some of these individuals, personal knowledge. I believe mother, father are deceased, son signing the petition as record owner.
Fair enough.
Going to go out on a limb there, but I believe that's the case. Any other questions? Okay. So just so we gather ourselves here on this, E, we have a motion that this be received. We're currently under discussion on that. That has been seconded. Any other thoughts before we go to a vote on receiving late file E? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. So moved. And is there now a motion?
Motion to...
The normal order would be 13A.
Yes, please, 13A.
Okay. So before us is 13A.
Second, if there's a motion to take it up.
Okay, 13A is a report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred a zone change application for Gary Rome of Whiting Farms Road, map 116, lot 1, from the current zone BG to proposed zone BH. Have considered the same. Recommend that the zone change be adopted. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Vacant, Bartley, and Shatnoff.
Receive the committee report and pass the first reading, please.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and to adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So this was a zone change application for Gary Rome on the Whiting Farms Road parcel to zone the lot there from BG to BH. And the reason why BH is being sought is because that's the only zone in the city's zoning ordinances that allow for auto-related uses. So the committee voted 4-0, or I'm sorry, 5-0 at that point in time.
Looks like 5-0.
5-0. 5-0 in support of the zone change. I think some of the factors that played into that decision was both the size and the location of the parcel. It is a very large parcel in that area, and it really seems that when we think about what's coming in, for, towards the mall and the Holyoke Hotel area, this is really becoming the commercial corridor of the city. So I think that the BH zone is going to be a good fit there. I'll just speak to some other points that I know were raised. Councilor Bartley earlier mentioned that I had voted in favor of both the RM20 district and the BH district, and I just want to say that in my mind the difference in the uses are minimal. The RM20 district allows for many of the same uses that are allowed in BH, except the auto-related uses are not allowed. So to me, they're fairly interchangeable. I think that the thing that makes the RM20 district attractive to the neighbors is that it precludes some development and brings in the residential mixed-use quality that I think they were seeking. I just want to point out that under the BH zone, those uses are not precluded. Additionally, when we think about the survey that was conducted by the planning department, because we had been through several zone changes on this parcel in the past, and the city took it upon itself at the previous zone change application to investigate what would be the best use, and they implemented a survey instrument to see what the neighborhood and also the city at large would like to see in that parcel. And the findings that I see coming out of that survey are really just the design features. And I know that people may argue that point, but really the most robust finding that comes out of that survey is not what type of development we want there, but what features do we want to see there. Because I think that, it said office park and mixed use and also commercial uses were all favored in that survey, but what stood out most of all is that design features such as pointed roofs and dimensional restrictions were going to be what made or break whether or not people that were being surveyed favored the proposed projects. So I just want to state again that I really respect the work of the neighborhood and the neighbors that had spent really several years trying to figure out what would be a good use for that district. I want to commend their citizen service and interest in the parcel, and really for pushing the city to conduct that survey, because I think we got a lot of very good data out of there. I just want to also reiterate that, again, I see the RM20 and the BH zone as fairly interchangeable. The BH zone is currently the only zone that allows for the auto-related uses. And while we shouldn't be looking to make zoning decisions on particular projects or proposals, I do want to also recognize that Gary Rome put together a very neat proposal that allowed us to envision how the parcel, given its large size, will be used in the future. I don't see the car dealership creating a high level of traffic for the neighborhood. I do think that we're going to see an increase in traffic in that neighborhood, but I don't think it's going to be from the auto dealership. I think instead it's going to be with the addition of the Applebee's and other high retail uses that are going in at the Holyoke Hotel location. And additionally, yeah, I just think in general we're seeing that this area is becoming a commercial corridor. And so what I've been doing with this in mind, with the vision that this is becoming a commercial corridor, I've been filing several orders to put controls on the dimensional controls and dimensional regulations, as well as design features that can be allowed in the BH, BG, SC, and IP districts, so that we could differentiate the types of businesses and we could avoid things like big boxes going in across from the neighborhood, and we can ensure that proper buffer yeah, again, design features can be placed in these BH districts across from neighborhoods. The last comment I want to make is in regards to the request to deny zone change petition. All of the items that are listed as reasons why the voters would like the zone change to be denied, in my opinion, can be addressed through site plan review. There are things like setback requirements, buffers, lighting, noise, etc., and those can be addressed in site plan review. And I believe that the planning board, who was working through us on this public hearing process, are very sensitive and very aware of the fact that the neighbors are going to be impacted. And I believe that they will do their best to ensure that the proper buffers and controls are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Alexander.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to vote in support of this zone change. But I do recognize that this is introducing a new use in that neighborhood, and that there are neighbors. And I just want to take this opportunity to call publicly on the project proponent and on the planning board and the planning department to work with the neighborhood to actually engage them in the process and to incorporate as many of their concerns and design suggestions and things like that into the project as possible. This doesn't only require a site plan review. Unusually, this also will require a special permit from the City Council, and I think that gives us an additional lever to help make sure that this is a successful project and goes in a very different direction than some of the other more contentious projects that have been approved through the site plan review process, but not with the full consent of the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Councilor Vacan, did I see your hand up? No. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to voice my support for the petition for the zone change that's before us this evening from BG to BH for several reasons. Although it's nice to have a known developer and a project in front of us to at least scrutinize as we are looking at one of our very important votes that we take in any time during the year, and that is of a zone change, which is about, as we all know, about use. The reason I support this is, number one, it is part of our master plan. When we undertook the master plan, it is several years old. We were careful to note that economic development is a very important part of the future of the city of Holyoke. And two of the main areas that we talked about economic development was, one was downtown in the Canal Industrial area, and two was the corridor of I-91 off the highway. We recognize that the mall in that area and the east side of 91 is more retail, commercial fit, and the west side of 91 in this area, Balboa Road, Whiting Street, and Whiting Street, so on, would be more industrial park. The importance of that part of the master plan, I think, is significant because not only did a number of residents throughout the city participate in it, but they all agreed on that one part, that economic development is important. The favorable vote of the planning board, I think, tells us that this is a use that fits, a use that does make sense. They had their chance, along with us. They listened to all sides of the issue and took their vote in a favorable recommendation. The property is currently owned by the ratepayers who own the gas and electric. The ratepayers are, with their monies on their monthly bills, paying for the property that was purchased. This is part of the dam being bought by the gas and electric on behalf of the city of Holyoke, a bond which this council and the mayor supported in terms of to pay off that project. Was talked about a number of times during the vote for the discussion for the bond itself, that the properties that came from Northeast Utilities, which included this property, other property that has been developed, some that we're trying to develop, would be part of keeping the rate down in terms of the impact of the ratepayers paying for that very substantial bond for a project that has many benefits to the city, that being the ownership of the dam itself. The overall good of the city, I think, is what we have to look at. the impact, as we know, as we approach the scrutinizing of our annual fiscal budget, and the impact we've seen over the last 2 years with the coal plant going down, values being stricken, and from the tax rolls. I think the last number I saw was $48 to $50 million of what we used to be able to tax at the coal plant. We no longer can. We are in dire need of replacing that value so that we can keep the actual tax bills as low as possible for all property owners throughout the city. One of the things during the process was I believe it was presented by the architect for the gas and electric, I mean, for the petitioner for Gary Rome was a map with the history of a lot of the parcels on Whiting Farms Road. This property, well before our time, was mostly farmland. Farmland that was, for different reasons, not going to survive, unfortunately, because it was an important part of the history of the city of Holyoke. As Whiting Farm was built, I believe it was under Ernie Prue's administration. Many people call it the $1 million road to nowhere, because at the time the mall wasn't even a dream, and no one even understood. Because 91, which was a big battle in the 60s, the original route of 91 was coming down through downtown through Beach Street, and would have been a big difference, I think, in this entire city if 91 was not diverted across the river in Springfield and up into the upper part of the city of Holyoke. The history of that map shows that it was a combination in historically of both commercial and residential property being developed as you go up Whiting Farms Road, and it's a unique mixed use, and I think it's something we should always take into consideration. The proposed project for Tokeniki and Farnham Drive was to be for mixed income residential homes. That didn't work out, and that's the federal government that tried to do that in the 70s and 80s, and it's something that I think conceptually is correct, but very difficult to pull off. So tonight we have a chance to further the betterment of the city. We have a chance to do something that I believe makes sense, because we have an idea of what one project just might fit into, and at the same time I believe it's the right thing to do. I will vote in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm also in favor of the zone change, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Rome for investing in Holyoke and not being discouraged by the tax rate and deciding to go elsewhere, or being frustrated by the process, which I actually think the process went very well this time around, and just for believing in Holyoke. I appreciate it. I know a lot of the people sitting in this room tonight appreciate it. And hopefully, this will be the start of many good things to come. Thank you.
Yeah, I too support the zone change. It just makes good economic sense for all the taxpayers in Holyoke, and it's going to create jobs. It's good for the city.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to echo what Councilor Schaffner said, but I also want to add to the abutters. We hear what you're saying, and we understand, and sometimes we got to make some tough decisions, but we believe that I'm in favor of this. I believe that Mr. Rome will stand by his word, and he will be a good neighbor. Thank you.
Yes, I also be favoring this, and I remember at the hearing he showed his laid out his project person that he's considering to do this project showed up in great scenario of the plan, what it would look like and all. And I think that we gotta continue to think about what we're saying. We've been saying that we're business friendly, and every time we have someone who's trying to do something in the city that it's related to the business, support that they're looking for, we're kind of like having people jump through so many hoops and so many roadblocks. And Mr. Rome has done excellent work where he's at, and I know that from what you see when you go by there, you never see like cars out in the street or broken down in the street and left without being picked up, if that's any of the concerns of the view. What we've seen down on Main Street, he's always kept up his place very well and neat. That's just for me to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one final point, and then we can move on to the motion. I just want to state that I think that our city has been making great strides to make itself business friendly. But I do want to note that what was before us was not a proposal for a business or a project. It was a zone change, and there's a certain process that needs to happen in order for a zone change petition to be heard by the city council, by the planning board, and then get passed. So I think it's important, although they came in conjunction because of a business project and proposal that was before us, moving forward on business in the city of Holyoke is a separate issue than acquiring a zone change, and that was what was before us this evening. Thank you.
Mr. President. Thank you. And I would like to point out, as I noted earlier under other parts of the discussion, that this discussion has been a very long one. It has been held in public. It has been entertained in public forums and followed up through letters, calls, and door knocking on my part. So when I'm talking about specifically Ward 5, that is where I'm speaking from. And then considering the city at large, we're all part of a greater whole. And I would note some distinctions with this use change and project. One is that in this instance, you're going to have an owner-developer. That is different from the other projects where the owner was leasing the land for to-be-announced projects that might or might not happen. We know definitely what this project is. We know with certainty that it will have a less impact on the traffic, which was the main concern about the big boxes. And we also know that it will have less of an impact on hours of business and interfering with the quality of life in the neighborhood, which was the other huge concern of the neighbors relative to the two prior projects. So given that due diligence, given to my listening to the constituents in Ward 5 and the greater needs of the city, I'm supporting this zone change tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be quick. And I do believe Councilor Lisi said it correctly. What you're voting on is a zone change. You're not voting on a developer. But one of the benefits that we have in this one is that you got to see the developer coming in. And one of the things I was impressed with wasn't so much the developer, but the employees. I happened to be at an event, a sad event, but nonetheless, I was at an event where just talking generalities, not sure exactly what was coming up there, and they started talking about their employer, of which it was Mr. Rome, and what a wonderful owner he is, boss, so on and so forth, of which he's the person that listens. And if you ask questions, he listens and he addresses those issues going forward. He doesn't hide behind big corporations where if a Walmart were to come in, you don't know what you're going to get, and you're not ever going to get to the top to see the person that gives the answers. Here, that's what you get. Mr. Rome is here. He's been here. Although we're not voting on a developer, actually in this case, we are. We're looking at a person who is true to his word and actually has said, whatever you need, we will do for the neighborhood to make it try and fit. For the residents, I understand it. I mean, look at Ward 6, Lynch School. They're going to potentially take that down. What we get over there, we're not quite sure yet. So we're on faith. Here we're not on faith. We have the person here. And he has been open and upfront from day one. And with site plan review, he's the type of person that if there's certain things you want, I can guarantee he's going to listen to that and try and make sure it fits the neighborhood. In essence, that's kind of a win for us. It's rare that we get that type of thing. So therefore, for me, based on what employees have said, his actions throughout this whole process, I'm highly in supportive of this zone change as well as the developer.
I had one housekeeping matter that I needed to attend to for myself, and that is that I did have an opportunity to review some rules related to myself for the Office of Campaign and Political Finance as well as the Ethics Commission, and I did wanted to let you know that I did make an appearance of, or a potential appearance of a conflict of interest relative to Mr. Rome attended a fundraiser of mine back in late March. I was the recipient of a campaign donation to my re-election campaign. I did want to disclose that I did return the campaign donation. I reviewed it with the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. They said the donation was perfectly legal to take if I wished. However, I have a personal policy that anybody who has pending business before the City Council, I do not take campaign donations for my own personal reelection campaign. So that's nothing, no negative reflection on Mr. Rome in any way, but that's was perfectly legal. However, I did also review the matter with the State Ethics Commission, and they stated that anybody who would attend a fundraiser for you who happen to have business before the City Council, you should file an appearance. There's nothing illegal per se, but you should file an appearance disclosure form, and I did file that with the Holyoke City Clerk's office, and I just wanted to make that housekeeping matter as it relates to Kevin Jourdain. Okay, so I wanted to just put that out there. So,
Thank you.
And that's public document if anybody would like to read the disclosure statement. So, we're currently at first reading, and is there anybody else that would like to say anything else at first reading? Councilor Vacan.
In light of the statement that you just made, to my knowledge, as a point of information, I will put forth, there is nothing out of order of somebody attending an event if money is not accepted. So I don't see why disclosure would be required if no money entered into the equation.
Right. I'll
Thank
tell you. Sure. You would think that's true. However, I did speak to the State Ethics Commission on the matter, and they said whether you take the donation or not, that's your choice, because it is a legal donation to take. They said the fact that someone merely attended your fundraiser could lead someone to believe that this person holds some sort of special status or place of favor with you, and therefore I follow whatever the State Ethics Commission tells me to do, and they said they advised that I would file this appearance of a potential conflict of interest. They felt as long as you feel that you can impartially discharge your duties, I feel I absolutely can. I returned the donation anyways, and I filed the disclosure as they said, so therefore perfectly legal to do, and therefore that's what I'm following as it relates to myself. I know others have probably had fundraisers and other things, but that's for yourself to parse out. But I'm just going based on what the State Ethics Commission and OCPF advised me. So.
Thank you. So just as a point of order,
sure.
I would note that because Mr. Rome did attend my event, although no money changed hands, if it is proper to file such a statement, I will do so. Thank you.
Same here, Mr. President.
Councilor McGee?
He did attend my announcement party. I have accepted nothing. However, I'll file disclosure. But he was there, sat in the audience, as well as you did. But I think I took your money, though.
You did take my check. But I don't have a zone change going. Yeah. But we try to be by the highest ethical standard here. That's the way we operate here in the Holyoke City Council. So, it's certainly and I made it a point not for anyone to take offense, but I do go above and beyond to make sure that we follow the rules here, especially as it relates to myself. I'm the policeman of at least one person, and that's myself. So there you go. All right, so we're at first reading, and without further ado, all in favor of adopting the first reading?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motions, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk is going to call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the committee report and therefore approving the zone change for the petitioner. A no vote is to deny it.
Tommen.
Yes.
Vacan.
Yes.
Valentin.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
Chatnoff.
Yes.
Graney.
Yes.
Jourdain.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
McGee. Yes. McGivern.
Yes.
Soto.
Yes.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've unanimously approved the petition for Gary Rome. You're very welcome. Which brings us to item 13B. 13B, 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 13B is a report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred a zone change application from Francis Lavelle of 200 Whiting Farms Road from the current zone of BG to a proposed zone of BH. Have considered the same, recommend that the zone change be approved. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Vacan, Bartley, and Shatnoff.
Motion that the committee report be received and passed at first reading.
Okay, motion, is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded that the committee report be received and adopted. Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So this is a zone change application for Francis Lavelle at 200 Whiting Farms Road, looking to change the BG parcel, currently zone parcel, to BH. They are wishing to have a few cars on the lot for sale, used cars that are acquired through auction for sale at the restaurant, at JP's restaurant. And it seems that they were doing this for several years, more than 10 years ago, when they were told that they did not have the proper zoning to continue to sell the used cars on the lot. So they were therefore denied the licenses since about 2002. However, with the Gary Rome auto sales coming in down the road, Mr. Lavelle thought that there would be renewed interest in used car sales on the lot. He wishes to sell 4 cars. We would be able to review that through the special permit that the owner would have to acquire. Again, the BH zone is the only zone in the city that allows for auto-related uses. And so, since it seems that this petitioner is looking to correct a wrong from the past, meaning he was allowed despite the wrong zoning in the past, it seems that given the other parcels in the area and the commercial uses, the BH zone seems to be an appropriate fit.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing, now, is there going to be a request to file for a special permit? Because you can have this zone, but you need a special permit after.
Yep.
Assuming that they still want to sell versus do something else, right?
Yes.
I'm good, thanks, Steve.
Okay. All right. Okay, any other discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of passing the second reading?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the adoption of the committee report and to grant the zone change to the petitioner. A no vote is to deny it.
Tommen,
Yes.
Vacan,
Yes.
Valentin,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Chatnoff,
Yes.
Greeny,
Yes.
Jourdain,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Soto.
Yes.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved the zone change for the Lavelle family at 200 Whiting Farms Road. And that dispenses with 13A, 13B, 13C is tabled. We have no Finance Committee reports, public safety for this, Mr. McGee.
Sorry. If I may, can I make a motion to suspend the rules and take up late file G? And I'll explain the reason.
Second.
It's good reason. Good reason
Okay.
why. Promise.
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up late file G regarding a Gateway City grant.
This one's there.
All in favor of suspending the rules to take up that item now?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Shall I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Introduced by Councilor McGee, that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the Gateway City Grant and authorizes the establishment of a fund or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant. And it is signed off by the mayor.
Make a motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and to pass its first reading. Under discussion. Councilor McGee.
Also make a motion to suspend the rules to allow Andrew Smith to come to the microphone and speak.
Second. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to allow Andrew Smith, our Conservation Director, to speak to the City Council. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed,
Mr. President?
Andrew, welcome.
Hello. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, just make sure the microphone's on.
Here and abroad. Hello.
Excellent, excellent.
Here.
Well,
Mr. President?
Yes, Gordon.
Before Dr. Smith adds his wisdom here, do we need a further suspension to allow final action?
Correct, because this was late filed. Correct, we will. So motion
moved.
to suspend the rules to allow the City Council to have more, to actually discuss and to take final action on the item. Okay? Okay.
So moved, yes.
Yeah. Well, right, we just did the suspension of rules to take it up now. So, motion to suspend the rules to have discussion and take final action on this item. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Thank you. Good procedural catch. Andrew, just want to tell us a little bit about the Gateway City Grant?
Absolutely. Oftentimes, we don't get a chance to do things that leave a lasting legacy. And I think this is one of those opportunities. It's been a very eventful night tonight. You guys have made some important decisions, and I'm hoping that this is an additional important decision that can be made on behalf of the city. 4:30 last Friday, I was received a phone call from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. What happens on June 30th? Everybody's familiar with the budget cycle. What happens if you have money on June 30th? Where's it go? Goes away, right? So there is some money in EOEA's budget, and they needed to spend it on a good project. In the past, we had been in discussion with representatives from the agency about establishing a municipal nursery. That was about in 2013. Nothing really happened in 2013, but you plant the seed and you never know what happens from there. So they gave us the call last Friday. Hey, would you guys like about $100,000 to establish a municipal nursery? I recognize the timing is not ideal. Ideally, you'd get a chance to go to council, then committee and back to council. But if that happens, and by the time they want us to spend the money, June 30th, we'll have like a week to work with. As it is right now, the timing is going to be very tight. But I think we can still do it. So ideally, $100,000 for about a 600 tree nursery that the city would own and operate. Obviously, you would have the opportunity to have rotating stock that could, be pulled and harvested and replanted. It would be a light grow bag system instead of like a heavy, like ball and burlap system. That would allow for, instead of using heavy equipment, you could use manpower to move them around and plant them. The trees would be unrestricted in where they could be planted. And I know that's been a less than ideal situation for a lot of people who aren't in the reforestation boundary that DCR has established. So I'm hoping it's a positive thing, and I'm hoping it's looked upon favorably, and that we can tell folks at EOEA tomorrow that we've accepted the grant. And I'd love to answer any questions if you have questions for me right now.
Andrew, you reference a nursery. Is that a physical fixed location somewhere?
We have thoughts on where it might be best. We still have to get the okay from everybody who's in that ward. Most likely it would be there's a 1.1 acre parcel across the street from Lynch School behind Fire Station number 3, kind of tucked away behind exit 17A from I-91. Currently it's grassy and forested, and it would be a good location because it's inaccessible, it's remote, it's not used for existing programming. It's right next to the fire station, so people would be able to see it all the time.
It's the parcel directly behind it?
Directly behind it. It's currently Parks and Rec administers it. So ideally,
city-owned now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
We would obviously want to speak with the neighbors to make sure that their concerns for fencing, that they don't have, a hideous fence, that sort of thing would be important. So there is money for fencing, there's money for irrigation, there's money for tree stock. So that's the goal, is to make sure the neighbors feel like they've been given a fair
I'm
deal.
sure the people on Dillon Avenue are going to have a definite interest in where that is. So we're not married to location by approving this now, right? Do we?
No.
Okay.
I think that's our first pitch,
Okay. We'll discuss that. You'll work with us on that. Okay, good. Councilor Soto.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is great news, I'm sure, for Councilor Gordon and Councilor Bartley, myself. We really took a lot of time in working with Andrew a number of years ago on this, so this is exciting stuff. I'm hoping that the water department will step up to the plate. They were offering space up at Ashley Reservoir and some other parts of the city, so I would also like to see them get involved with this. This is great stuff. Thank you, Andrew.
Councilor Graney.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we're not going to put a hot dog vendor in there, are we?
Yes.
No hot dog.
Councilor Alexander.
No, I just want to commend the conservation officer and the conservation commission for moving this forward and actually getting somewhere with this. It's something we've been working on for years and years and years. I'm really glad to see it coming to some level of fruition. And if the water department wants to contribute something, it can contribute some water to the nursery. Thank you.
There you go. Councilor Bartley.
Just want to say thanks. You know, that was good news, Todd. So I appreciate you bringing this order up, and Andrew, of course, for your hard work, and Councilor Alexander, Councilor Soto. So we put a lot of time into this, and among other things, we've been very fortunate with the committee that we sat on, Andrew, that ad hoc committee, and we've gotten some really timing's just been great with DCR. So we want to be you know, thankful for them. In fact, DCR was planting trees on Brown Ave today and on Laurel Street, so it's been really some positive developments, and so let's keep the momentum going.
Councilor McGivern.
Andrew, as always, well done. Only question is, are there any matching funds required by the city?
There are no matching funds under the Gateway Cities program.
Thank you.
Councilor McGee.
Yeah, just for procedural, as you've heard, Friday, 4:30. Received the phone call. Andrew is always very timely of getting stuff to us, likes it going to committee, likes it being debated and then shipped out.
Sure.
This is last minute.
Of course.
And the time restraint on it is serious. So he did contact me Friday once he found out and said, what do we do? And this was the best course of action. Just letting everyone know how it transpired, and it just wasn't, you know, dumped on us. It was,
and we're yeah, that's a great point, and we're sympathetic to the sensitivities of the time. And you had me when they said, "Would you like $100,000?" That was an easy sell for me at that point. Whenever we can get $100,000 from our Boston brethren, we'll take it. Any further discussion on first reading, Councilor Tallman?
I just want to congratulate you to get this done, and like my colleagues that have worked tirelessly to do this. It's a big benefit to the city, and to have this right within our own area, and to take these trees and to grow them here, which I've already seen several all over the city, especially downtown here, is a big bonus for the city. And thanks for your good work.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Andrew. We really appreciate it. All right, all in favor of adopting the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Clerk is going to call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of approving and accepting this grant. A no vote is to deny it.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Valentin.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
Chatnoff.
Yes.
Graney.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi. McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Soto. 14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved the $100,000 grant for the nursery and for the trees. Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Outstanding.
And that brings us now to 16A, which is our first committee report out of public service, to whom was referred a mayoral appointment of Alexandra Puffer to serve as a member of the Historical Commission. Have considered the same, recommend that the appointee be confirmed. Councilors Bresnahan, Tallman, McGivern, Valentin, and Soto. Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Receive and adopt
the committee report.
The order, the committee report.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report and recommend that the appointee be confirmed. Under discussion, Councilor Bresnahan.
Yeah, briefly, we had some real sharp candidates that the mayor has appointed. This candidate, young, very enthusiastic, volunteers right now. She's volunteers for the Girl Scouts. She volunteers at Wisteriahurst already. Born and raised in Holyoke. She's got a degree in strategic communications and public relations. She values old Holyoke. We did touch upon, saving all the buildings or developing and that sort of thing. She was just very, very happy to accept this nomination. She's been going to the meetings since February already. I mean, she's in the game, and she's very happy to be part of the city moving forward. So it was a 5-0 vote that we accept this nomination and put her on the committee, on the historical committee.
Should the membership glean anything by the fact that there's 5 changes to the Historic Commission? This particular nominee replaces Mr. Vita Kruta, who we know well around town. Just wondering, it's not normal that we see 5 appointments to the same commission at any one given moment. I don't know if there was some greater message here. I don't know if the committee gleaned into that at all. I don't know.
I think that's a conversation certainly for the mayor. Okay. I mean, I don't think she was. Right. She's not. You know, I don't think any of these candidates were in tune with that type of conversation.
Did we have mass resignations, or was there just we're moving the whole board around?
I mean, well, I think
does anybody know?
I think if you look at there's been a lot of exits, not only department heads but board members. I don't know in reference if these board members left of their own choice or if they were asked to leave. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Just an observation,
Mr. President.
Councilor Alexander?
Our practice has been if people leave midterm, so therefore we're filling out a term with a new appointee. We normally A, know that, and B, have some kind of a letter of resignation or something from the dearly departed.
The dearly departed, yeah, I don't have a letter of resignation from this first dearly departed. Will serve Mr. Kruta's remaining term, so he must have resigned. Or he certainly wasn't removed for cause, because that would have to come back to the city council.
This is not our normal procedure. I would just note that.
Agreed. Generally, the procedure is we expect some form of resignation or notice or something going on that people are leaving midstream.
Come on, buddy. You've been on the committee for 20 years.
I don't know if the council wants to plumb into that. Councilor Barley, the only reason I bring it up is there's 5 for the same commission. That's kind of unusual.
I'm only seeing 3 on the agenda.
Am I missing something here?
There were no shows.
Yeah, there was of the 8 items, 4 did not show up.
Okay, but I'm seeing that appointments were made to Ms. Puffer, Ms. Izaza Figueroa, Miss Wilson, a Mr. Easold, and a Mr. Paul. 5 individuals all appointed to the Historic Commission.
Wilson and Easel are not on the printed agenda that's on the tables in front of us.
On the
so that's
to the agenda that came in the mail. There was an appointment made. How, whether it made it through the committee process or not, I'm just observing to you, there has been 5 mayoral appointments to the Historic Commission at the same time. Just an observation. Why? I don't know. We'll figure it out at some future date. Did anybody else want to be heard on Ms. Puffer? Councilor Bartley.
I don't want sorry, Mr. President. Thank you. I think we had wholesale changes one other time. I thought the COA was. I thought that was a wholesale change at one point. So I just want to point that out. Yep. So that's happened. And second of all, as Councilor Alexander noted, I don't see a resignation letter from attached.
Table it.
You know, maybe Danny. No?
I'd be happy to table it, Dave. Honestly.
No, I don't want. No,
I mean, I agree. All of these. I mean, this was what put on my plate. So I mean, I'd be happy to table all of it until we get, either letters of resignations or
they're
some sort of indication that these folks
here. But they're not. They're volunteers. But before I forget, since Councilor Grady mentioned it, I just want to congratulate Jen on her 10-year anniversary as well.
Oh, yes.
Because that was that should be noted as well.
And we didn't want any competition in the neighborhood.
And to celebrate, the Jourdains went down and bought 10 $1 hot dogs at the special, the 10-year special. So I got $10.
How many did the president consume?
Only allowed 2 per person, according to the rules. So any more than that.
Are you disclosing that for the evening vote?
No, I will not disclose the number of hot dogs I ate, but I will say 10 were ordered. Councilor Bartley.
No,
you're all set? Councilor McGivern.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Mr. President, you bring up a good point. I think it did cross our minds, but we looked at our job was to interview the candidates, their character, their resume, and the mayor's office should be doing the verification of the resume. But just for real quick, can we suspend the rules and ask the law department to approach so I could ask one quick question?
Second.
Sure. Motion to suspend the rules to allow the law department to approach. Is there a second to that?
I did. Second.
Second. Okay. I didn't hear it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Kara?
Kara, the question is simple, unless you know something that's going on with the Historic Commission, but if the appointments that are being made to us by the mayor are replacing someone who is not resigned, what is it, the original, does it negate the original appointment, or is it, I'm not sure how to put it.
Well, I think that could only be done if it was the end of their term.
Well, it's not the end of all their terms because they're staggered terms.
Yeah, I don't honestly know. I was just looking on their website. I know they have a number of vacancies listed, but I
What's the
couldn't tell
total
you.
membership? Is it a 7-member board or
I think
5?
it is. They have
Okay.
7 or 8 listed.
All right.
I mean, if they're vacancies, I understand it. You know, midterm, as Councilor Alexander pointed out. But as long as we're not, without knowledge, replacing someone.
Right. I don't know.
Could you look into this and just let us know?
Sure.
Down the road, you know, maybe our next meeting, you could report what happened with the Historic Commission.
Sure.
And just, you know, did the resignations lined up, you know, because we know there couldn't be removals midterm without their okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mr. President?
Yes,
Could
Councilor
I
Green.
move that we table all 5 until the next meeting? No. Till we get the information?
You could do that. You could do
Second.
that. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Let's do, since we don't have the other ones in front of us at the moment, we'll just define the motion to A. So, all in favor of tabling item 16A? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Show of hands. Raise your hand if you want to table item number 16A. Hold on, we're under the voting right now. Seven. Motion fails. Okay, Councilor Soto, you had an idea.
Yeah, in all fairness, I mean, I sat through all those interviews with the rest of my colleagues here, and I understand that regardless what Room 1 is doing, I mean, these individuals did come, and they are pretty good candidates for these positions. I mean, they really are. I'd hate to discourage them from or having
Well,
to
I
put them
don't
through any...
think that's the concern of some of those of us who voted to table. I think they're all wonderful people. That's not the issue. The concern, I think, is, are these valid appointments? Because we do know if these people have not resigned, there's no appointment for them to go into. I think certain individuals in the room just want to make sure that we've confirmed that all these people wanted to leave, and therefore you can find these replacements to go into them. I think none of these are controversial in the least, you know?
I would agree with that, but I mean, our chairman did tell the individuals after tonight's vote they would be able to go to the city clerk's office and get sworn in. And if you're excited about going to the city clerk's office to get sworn in, and you get there and they're telling you, hold for a second, I just don't want to discourage anybody, especially if they're volunteering for these positions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilor McGee?
I agree with Councilor Soto. I guess it's just more of a procedural question for me is we approve all of them. They go in and get sworn in. The other person says, I didn't resign. I'm not leaving.
Exactly.
So now
that would be
I
a major
got sworn
problem.
in. I'm very happy, and now I can't do anything because Dan's still there. Now it creates that who's who. That's all this is really trying to say is we can approve all 5, but at the same time, can they really go in the position? I think that's the crux of the problem. And if I'm sworn in tomorrow and now I can't do it, does that discourage me to say, you guys don't know what you're doing, I bow out? And that's why I'd say just table it and make sure everyone's gone.
I mean, at a certain level, we gotta hope that the mayor would not be making appointments knowing he doesn't have a resignation in hand midterm from the person. Okay, God, I gotta hope that doesn't happen, because that would be, you know, that's where this thing gets checked and policed.
Mr. President, if I can make an amendment that might help.
Sure.
An amendment that we adopt the confirmation of the mayor's appointments, providing that the position is vacant.
Second.
Second.
Okay. And the law requires that as well. I mean, if your appointment is and confirmation is meaningless if this position, there is no vacancy. They have the legal standing to the position to the remainder of their term, unless validly removed, okay, if they didn't resign. So just so we're aware of that from a procedural. So even if we did vote to put somebody in and they weren't validly, the seat was vacant, this new person has no standing to the seat. Just so we're clear about that. But yes, I mean, we can obviously put that additional caveat in there that there's truly a vacancy. Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, that's a great point. But a couple of these appointees actually made the meetings, so they would know if there was, a problem that they couldn't replace somebody. I know what you're saying, and I know what Todd's saying, but they actually came down and they applied, sent a letter to the mayor. I want to be on this position because there was an opening. Yep. I don't think there would be an opening if somebody didn't step down.
How do you know?
I mean, I can't say for sure, but I mean, they actually made the meeting. So I think Joe's is a good compromise. But we had some really qualified candidates here last night. The people that moved into town, some people within a year or two, just moved that just 2 months, moved into town, is ready to step up and volunteer their services to the city. So.
Okay. Councilor Soto.
Yeah, Mr. President, with that said, I would agree to table it.
Okay. Councilor Alexander.
I know I think we only have 16A in front of us still, but do you have letters in front of you indicating that any of the other ones are filling vacant seats as opposed to filling out terms for people who we don't have any resignations for?
The one that Ms. Figueroa's, Isaza Figueroa is going into references no other person. Says will serve a 3-year term. Said term will expire February of 2018.
So
I got to believe that's probably an open seat.
Yeah.
The one that Mr. Paul is going into references replacing Duncan Makowitz. Will serve a 3-year term expiring January 2018. It doesn't tell us if it's the remainder of this person's term. I gotta believe likely not, I guess. Mr. Dodge, Michael, is replacing Ms. Sue Ellen Panich. Ms. Panich is seeking to fill out the remainder of Sue Ellen Panich's term. And this term will expire February 1, 2017. So I'm assuming Sue Ellen has resigned, because I'm sure she wasn't removed. So certainly considering we just dedicated something to her.
I'm going to renew the motion then to take up all of those appointments as a package and then table all of them.
Okay. So motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up 16A, B, C, D, and E, and F, and F.
We don't have an F on the agenda.
A, B, C, and D.
On my agenda, I have a 16A, B.
Because this meeting was on Monday night, there wasn't an agenda that had all the items on the public service agenda.
Okay.
But we only referred 4 out. So there was a new agenda this evening.
Okay.
That would.
Which were the 4? On the main agenda.
A would be Alexander Puffer.
Yep.
B is Nidia.
Intia.
Okay. Wilson and Easold.
And Joe Paul, and then Michael Dodge is actually to the Conservation Commission.
Okay. So we'll forget
Easold
that one.
did not come out. Miss Wilson did not come out.
Okay. So
Ms.
one.
Monahan did not come out, and Mr. Taylor did not come out.
Okay. So we've got Puffer, Isaza Figueroa, and Paul, those 3.
Right.
Okay, for Historic Commission.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion on the floor, if I understand you correctly, Councilor Alexander, is to take up those 3, the Puffer, Isaza Figueroa, and Paul nominations, and to suspend the rules, take them, the 3 of them as a package, and to table them.
And Dodge.
Dodge is Conservation Commission.
So what?
What does
Okay.
that? What does that one say on Dodge?
Because, okay, your concern there being we don't have a resignation.
My concern with all four is lack of
information
process. Okay.
Well, not
so
just
you want,
process,
all right.
but you know, oops.
Yeah, right.
And that was
Okay, so and 16, what's F on my agenda? I'm not sure what it is on yours. D. And Mr. Dodge's as well. Okay.
Correct.
So the motion on the floor is to suspend the rules and to table all four of these nominees, these committee reports. Was there a second to that?
There was. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Raise your hand if you want to suspend the rules and take them up as a
No.
package and table. All in favor? Nine fails. You need 2/3 on the rule suspension, so you could remove by one. That would only be a majority vote.
Okay, I'll make the motion to table A.
Mr. President, I'll make it 10 if we're going to do it that way.
We can have 5 votes, or okay.
Yeah.
So, Councilor McGivern, were you reconsidering our action?
No.
On
Not
that vote?
objecting.
All right. Yeah. What are you doing?
Yes,
over there?
motion to reconsider.
Okay, motion
to
to
take
reconsider.
up all four as a package and table.
Suspend the rules and to table those 4 items. Okay, is there a second to the reconsideration motion? Okay, all in favor of reconsidering our action and to table and suspend the rules and take them up as a package? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So moved. So A, B, C, and D we will see at the next meeting. Presumably, and that will all get ironed out.
Maybe a few more, too.
Mr. President?
Will this be at our June 24th meeting, or do all these people need to wait after the summer recess?
Why couldn't it be at our next meeting?
We have a meeting June, whatever, the first Tuesday
4th
in
or
June,
something.
right?
Well,
These be
I'm
on
just
the agenda for the next meeting. They're tabled. They didn't
Yeah,
go anywhere.
right.
okay.
Yep.
Mr. President?
Yes,
Can we just
Councilor
make sure we send a note to the mayor to make sure we get letters of resignation, not just for these that we just tabled, but also for all the other ones that are about to come out of committee?
Correct.
So that we can act on all of them.
And just a reminder of the policy that anybody midterm, we need to see a resignation. Okay. So, we have 6, okay, G did not come out, right, Mr. Taylor? He didn't come out? Okay, just got that right. All right, which brings us now to the main body of items, motions, orders, resolutions. Item number 19, brought to us by Councilor Bartley. Ordered, motorists continue to ignore the no left turn and do not enter signs on Whiting Farms Road / Kmart Plaza and the no U-turn sign at Fire Station number 5. Order that the HPD monitor this area and enforce city ordinances here and also near Gilman and Clark Streets, where there are 2 do not block the box areas that are also being ignored.
Just right now, motion to receive.
Receive and?
Second.
I want to refer it to HPD, but I want to amend this, Mr. President, if I could, very briefly.
Okay. So you
motion
have to
to-
make a motion to receive and adopt, then you
Motion
can
to
make a
receive
motion
and
to
adopt.
amend.
Second.
Okay, motion to receive, adopt, refer to the to the police
HPD,
department.
yeah, please.
Okay, that was seconded under discussion, and you perhaps have an amendment for
Yeah,
us.
I just want to amend it. Just in the last couple of days, Mr. President, I just got some feedback relative to just the second sentence where I have near Gilman and Clark's, and I just want to add Glen Street to that as well, because there's just some comments there. So, I can add
So
Glen on
motion on the floor is to amend the order to add it to read Gilman, Clark, and Glen Streets.
Yeah, please.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion refer to HPD.
Okay.
Second.
Glen Street added. Motion on the floor now is to receive, adopt, and refer to the police department. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
so
you.
moved. Okay. Item number 20, introduced by Councilor Jordan, that a no outlet sign be placed at the beginning of Raymond Avenue. I'd ask that it be adopted, referred
Receive,
to the
adopt,
DPW.
refer to DPW.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and refer to the DPW. No discussion needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 21 is introduced by Councilor Jordan, that a handicap sign be placed in front of 79 Newton Street for Carlos Garcia. Councilor LeBron Martinez, I don't know if you wanted to be added as a co-sponsor. I was asked to help with this situation. So
You'd refer to ordinance, copy to the Commission on Disabilities.
Yes.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to add Councilor LeBeau Martinez as a co-sponsor, referring to the Ordinance Committee with a copy to the Disabilities Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 22 is an order introduced by Councilors Leahy, Alexander, Bresnahan, Shatnoff, McGee, Soto, Tallman, and Valentin. Order that the City Council give retiree firefighter Larry Jackson an official proclamation for serving the city for 36 years. LJ was the first African-American firefighter in the city of Holyoke, proudly wears badge 1 as the most senior firefighter in the department. I would request to have my name added as a co-sponsor.
Would you add Councilor Graney to that too, please?
Lacey.
Given that Leahy is on there, we can probably add the full council.
Make everybody
Unanimous.
unanimous.
Yeah, motion to make unanimous on the co-sponsorship. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. So all members in the room, including the original. Any motion to name who will be the lead sponsor? Okay.
We're
Take
coming
that
to
up
that,
another
aren't we?
time.
To-
We'll take that up as another
Did
time.
somebody file it? We're coming.
We'll do a bidding process for
Yeah.
that.
Jimmy.
So, okay, so motion on the floor is that this be adopted. I would just say, just for procedural purposes, as you recall, first of all, Larry Jackson, wonderful person, happy to give a proclamation. He happens to be a friend of mine, very involved with Holyoke Youth Football. I would just say, procedurally, I would just ask us to consider there's a lot of wonderful people retiring from the fire department. The tradition is we did them all together annually as a package. I would then go down to the retirement party, which will be happening later this year, and we have an event where we do all of these, as opposed to just sort of singling out Larry and bringing him in here. The tradition, I was going to just suggest that we keep with that and honor Larry with his other brothers and sister firefighters that are also retiring at the HFD retirement party. Obviously, you know, so this will be one of the ones that we'll do, and I'm sure down the road they give us the list of the other ones. So,
Mr. President?
Yeah.
With all due respect for that tradition, this
Counselor.
seems like kind of a special case. And I think maybe a
we
little
have-
bit of special recognition would not be a bad thing in this case.
Second.
I agree.
All right. Well, we can have that discussion. I've given you my opinion. I feel Larry's wonderful, but all these firefighters are wonderful. And the tradition generally has been that we've honored all the retirees together. And we can certainly denote certain barriers, obviously, that Larry in particular has crossed. You know, obviously. But anyways, Councilor Lisi.
I'm happy to lay file an order that gives the recognition to all retirees so that we have that base covered, but I do like the idea of being able to grant a special recognition to Mr. Jackson for his accomplishment.
Okay. Councilor McGivern?
Mr. President, I agree with you. I think we are giving him a special recognition, but I think it should be at the retirement party per the wishes of the association itself. If we start bringing in individuals, then I think we have to consider other accomplishments of individuals that could be special also. And it's sensitive, but I think we can, with the proclamation, use the wording of this order to recognize Larry, and certainly with your words when you present it.
Yeah, for sure. Councilor Lisi?
No, I think it's fine to present all the retiring firefighters with individual proclamations at the same time at the retirement party, but I would like the wording on Mr. Jackson's proclamation to reflect this accomplishment in particular, that we're recognizing it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all that I'm saying there.
Oh, we're all on the same page with that. Nothing, you know, absolutely. I think the only point I'm trying to convey is we tend to do them all together, but oh, no question. This will all be in there.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to be in the proclamation. 100%, you know, that would be, we would ask that, you know, former Councilor Devine, when she does this up, you know, be very sensitive to this important accomplishment. No question, you know,
Great.
no question. Any other thoughts? So, motion on the floor right now is to adopt. Any other discussion on this? All in favor of adopting this for Larry?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next up, item 23 from Councilor Leahy, ordered that the City Council official resolution include the name of the councilor who was the lead author.
Order and rules.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive this proposed rule change and refer to the Charter and Rules Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 24.
24 through 26 as a package, please.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules to take up 24 through 26 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item 24, 5, and 6 all come to us from Councilor Lisi. Item number 24 is that the City Council adopt an ordinance reallocating the $4,000 of stipends that were previously allocated to the Geriatric Authority members to the volunteer members of the Planning Board. The dissolution of the Geriatric Authority frees up a small amount of money that may be used to compensate the members of a very active and labor-intensive planning board. Item number 25, that the City Council work to pass an operable sewer rate that lifts the burden of the budget shortfall off the taxpayers. Item number 26, that the City Council review the business general, business highway, shopping center, and general industry zoning ordinances to see if they can be consolidated and otherwise reformulated to be more intuitive and business friendly.
Receive and send all three to ordinance, please.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to receive all three and to refer to ordinance. And I would just make one request is as you review where on 24 the money comes, I believe that was from the GAH's budget, not from the city budget, just an FYI. Councilor Soto.
Thank you, Mr. President. In all due fairness, credit to the councilor who filed the order to give a stipend to another volunteer body. I strongly am against that. Number one, too, is we don't have any money in the city. We just don't. And number two, we want to recognize individuals for their hard work, but when people get into these certain positions, they know what they're getting into. And two, it's not just the $4,000. There's more to this. When individuals that are on these boards throughout the city that receive a stipend, they sort of get some sort of benefits on the backside too, with insurance and everything else that comes along with the city. And this is a long-term expenditure that happens to the city. So we need to really look at these things before we start giving money away. Thank you.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. Just under discussion really briefly. I don't want to belabor this at all, but I'm not saying that we're using the $4,000 and giving it to another. It's just to investigate whether there's a pot of money that we can reallocate. I think that we've investigated stipends for different boards and committees throughout the city, and we've noticed that there is a random allocation of money to different boards, and some boards that work more intensely and less intensely doesn't determine who's being compensated with a stipend or not. Additionally, I don't believe that our boards and committees do get insurance, but again, we'll find out more when we investigate this in committee.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The maker has requested all three items be referred to the ordinance committee. Councilor Graney, under discussion.
Shouldn't 24 go to finance too?
You're requesting that 24 go to finance as opposed to ordinance?
Yes.
It would require an ordinance change. Obviously, there would have to be a transfer at some point if we did that.
Okay. I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay. All right. So, all in favor of sending these three items to the ordinance committee?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And we just have a few late file housekeeping items. Okay.
And act on them now.
Okay. Motion is to suspend the rules to take up late file A and late file B as a package and to allow discussion of these items and potentially final action on them this evening. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sir, what are items A and B?
Okay.
Legal department.
Two question. One is $2,000 from claims general to litigation, I believe. It looks like there's some consultants regarding a contract matter for the Suffolk Street parking garage. B is to move $700 of in-state travel to litigation. Also being requested by the law department. So those are the items. So all in favor of suspending the rules to take up these two items now and potentially have final action and discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
I think the ayes have it.
I think the ayes have it. I only heard one no, albeit a very loud no. I think I only heard one no. Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, what's your
Make
pleasure?
a motion to suspend the rules, allow Kara to speak if we have questions.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second to allow the Law Department to address us on late file A and B. All in favor? Opposed? So moved. Kara, give us your thoughts on late file A and B, please.
Thank you. They actually were not supposed to be late filed, but Bellamy is out, and so there was a little bit of confusion in getting them filed. These are just two transfers within the law department, but because they're coming from the claims account into litigation, they're two separate categories. And then in-state travel, anything in or out of in-state travel requires council approval as well. The $2,000 from claims to litigation is to cover expenses for a consultant in connection with the Suffolk Street parking garage contract dispute that we're working on mediating. And so the $2,000 will cover that expense. And then the additional $700 from in-state travel also into litigation is to pay the cost of a title exam and a deposition transcript. So there are 3 outstanding invoices, and I'm hoping in all of the various accounts, you know, with the transfers that we'll still have enough money for everything for the end of the year. So we're just trying to move some of the money around, but obviously these 2 particular accounts needed to come before the council. So,
Councilor Soto?
I think you answered my question. So you have enough money for travel for the remaining of the
yes.
fiscal? So there won't anybody be coming back for any of that stuff?
No, I would not for that.
And Councilor Alexander?
Yeah, Kara, without going into any details at all, just $2,000 for a consultant to help mediate that contract dispute. What's the magnitude of the contract dispute?
Well, the project itself was several $1 million, and there's the issue is with the concrete that it's cracking. And so the consultant has been analyzing the concrete, doing some testing, and we're proceeding to a mediation to try and recover some of the funds the city has expended for the parking deck because it's not as we expected it to be.
Thank you.
It was only $7.5 million.
That's what. Yeah.
I mean, that's a mere bag of shells. Councilor Soto, did you have your hand out?
Are we talking about the new one that was just built?
Yes.
Unbelievable. All right, sorry.
Councilor McGivern.
For what it's worth, there's no mediation on this. The contractor's got to pay to do it correct.
I'm sure he may have his own opinion of that. Anybody else? All right, so there's our law department info. And we now could entertain motions or send it to go to first reading or to refer it to finance.
Make a motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to go to first reading. Now, this can be on both as a package, okay, because that's how we suspended the rules. So, Councilor McGee, not really needed for a report. Kara spelled out the issues. Any discussion on first reading? Why we should or should not vote for this? Okay. All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of both the $2,000 transfer and the $700 transfer as a package. A no vote will be to deny both. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Tomlin?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentin?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Chatnoff?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jourdain?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern? Soto? 14 yeas.
By your unanimous vote, you have approved those 2 transfer requests, and late file C comes from Councilor Jourdain, and that is that representatives of PEG Access Corp., the Mayor's Office, the Holyoke Community Media Advisory Board come to the Committee on Development and Government Relations and discuss the proposed transfer of the PEG Access Corp powers to the Holyoke Media Board, as well as the new proposed structure and acquisition of property. That a copy of the new proposed bylaws be provided to all councilors for their review. Please provide all of the financials, including a financial pro forma of the new proposed structure, from the collection of the Comcast franchise fees to the expenditure of funds. I'd request that it go to DGNR.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive this order and to refer it to the DGNR committee. Councilor Soto?
Can I be added on that, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Adding Councilor Soto as a co-sponsor?
Mr. President, copies to whoever needs to provide all of that data.
Yes.
In advance.
In advance. So
Hopefully.
Ryan, if you would be
Via
kind
email.
enough to send this off to everybody and make sure we track down those documents in advance. Yes, that's a good point. You want to just restate the question again, Joe?
The PEG Access is a corporation that the original, this body with the mayor adopted, with Mayor Sullivan, adopted to establish PEG Access as a corporation to handle the funds, as you pointed out earlier. If we're going to change the bylaws of PEG Access or change the structure of PEG Access, I think is more important. I think this body has to be able to weigh in and vote on the change itself.
Okay. Thank you. Kara, if you'd be kind enough to look into that issue. All right. So all in favor of referring item C to DGNR?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And that next brings us to late file F, and that is a communication from Kara, our Assistant City Solicitor. Dear Councilors, in response to the attached order adopted on May 5th and signed by the Mayor on May 7th, that the Law Department, Auditor, Treasurer, Mayor's Office provide the Finance Committee with an update on whether the Mayor's Office has a debit or credit card for city use, please be advised that the Mayor does not have a city-issued debit or credit card. I trust this answers your concerns. Kara Cunha. Okay. You want to receive and refer to Finance? Okay, motion on the floor is to receive and refer to Finance. There is no discussion since we didn't suspend the rules on that. All in favor of that?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Late file H is a supplemental petition of various individuals from Farnham and Lynch Drive and whatnot in opposition to the zone change for Gary Rome. Receive?
Receive.
Okay. No discussion, since we haven't suspended the rules to have discussion. So motion on the floor is to receive. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Late file I. Must be running out of forms.
Running out of letters soon.
Late file correspondence from Councilor Vacan. It's a disclosure statement from Councilor Vacan that Gary Rome attended my kickoff event for re-election on May 11th.
Motion to receive.
No money was accepted for re-election at that event or at this time to avoid any conflict of interest as it pertains to the zone change votes in committee and at the full city council meeting. Sincerely, Linda Vacan. Motion is that be received. There is
Jim
no
Lavelle go to
discussion.
your party?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Right? What about Jimmy Lavelle? Anybody see him at anybody's party?
I don't know. It wasn't at mine, so I didn't have to do that one.
Well, you guys are buddies.
Just
warmer than it was.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Yeah, sure.
Do we file these with the city council or the city clerk?
It's supposed to be city clerk, so you might want to just make sure you file it with the city clerk too. The state ethics form, it says right on it, local elected officials, city clerk's office.
And the clerk gives it to us.
So receive, well, we could reconsider our action, refer a copy of this to the...
Motion to reconsider and refer to the city clerk's office.
Okay. Motion to reconsider our action on late file I. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to receive and to refer a copy of I to the city clerk. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. There's no further items on the agenda.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?